Good morning, everyone. It's another edition of Infinity Solutions with Mike Nashif and the Infinity Project. We're just trying to create something different today. Got this keychain that I purchased at Walmart. Okay, it's filled with liquid and it has a centerpiece. Okay, that is suspended in the liquid. Okay, that remains dry. Okay, we're going to see how we can utilize this with some GANs and some sort of infinity loops placed inside. First things first, though, it also comes with blinking lights that go in the end of it. Okay, so we're going to see what we can do with this. Red and blue are very important to me, so it's ironic that they turn red and blue here. First things first is that I'm going to drill a hole in the end of this, all right? And I'm going to see what it looks like when I add some GANs to the liquid that's already in here, okay? I'm assuming it's water with some sort of a salt solution. I don't know what they put into it to keep it from becoming cloudy and moldy, okay? We've got some sort of a chemical in there. I'm pretty sure. Plus there's glitter, so I don't know if it's going to do what I want with that. So I'm debating whether I'm going to try and extract all the liquid out of it and then just fill it with GANs. I think that's what I'm going to end up doing. I don't like the unknown. Okay, I'm a creator, so I'm going to set my own conditions. Okay, keep that in mind. I did get, with the few donations that we got, I did manage to get my 2 tasers that I get to experiment with. Thank you guys to those that have faith in my ideas, even if they do sound a little crazy at times. Just trying to find a way to be able to prove this technology to you guys, and I know there's a simple way of doing it. And when you're dealing with subtle energies and light energy, there's a lot that you have to just believe and know that it's there, that it's always there. And I think that's what my job is when I teach about infinity, is that when you make a complete circle with something, there are just a set of laws that apply all the time. They're always there. And I guess I'm trying to explain those laws to you so that you know that they're there and you don't have to worry about them anymore. Okay, we don't have to try and figure them out. And one way of doing that is breaking down our elements, okay, into the 4 different kinds of elements that are present. Okay, you've got matter, you have dark matter, you have light and dark light, and then you have neutral plasma light energy. Okay, so there are 5 different layers, as we want to call it, to creation, and we're breaking them down into those individual layers. And part of removing some of that unwanted stress, I guess we can call it, of trying to keep track of all the important little numbers and things like that in our matter-based society like we live now. We need weights and measures, and we need all sorts of things in order to prove that these things exist. Well, in order to have that existence, there is a certain set of laws that are already in place. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to see it or smell it feel it, touch it. Okay. And that's what the Infinity Project is about right now. And I know that you guys are fighting to survive right now still. You still feel the need to survive. Not only people in my group right now, but those that will watch this in the future. You're gonna realize that you had to go through those experiences in order to get where we're going. And it's real easy to forgive when you understand that. And the forgiveness is what sets your heart free in order to expand your mind. And that's all I've done, is I've been able to let it all go and understand that everything that we're doing here is for a very specific reason. And like I said before, we're on a roller coaster ride. We're strapped in. We have to dodge Mother Nature in some cases, but in that sense, we're just waiting for the roller coaster to stop, and then all the doors will open up, and we're going to step off into a new world that we never thought could exist. And we leave nobody behind. That's the beauty of this. The only way to end duality and division, racism and hatred and fear and all of that, where everybody believes that they're, an individual and separate from God, or separate from anything of all creation, that, when you figure that out, you're done. You can't ever unsee that. And you just continue to move forward. And I'm hoping that my teachings will inspire many of you to think of an alternative perspective, and one of those perspectives is by using light energy or neutrinos, or referred to as GANs, and even in some cases being referred to as ormus. And that's what we're going to use inside of these little plastic cases. Okay, we just need the plastic cases so that we can see it. You don't need these devices in order to do the spiritual stuff. Okay, you don't need any of these devices. These devices were purely designed for humanity, because we need something that we can physically touch, twist, count, measure, look at, smell, and taste. And it will answer all of your questions. It will answer your questions about phi, P-H-I. It'll answer your questions about pi, P-I, Pythagoras theorem, spherical energy, okay? Using a piece of the whole to get the energy of the entire whole. It's like eating a slice of an orange and feeling like you ate the whole thing. All right. It's kind of the same feelings that we get with this stuff. Okay. But when you learn to separate all of your stuff, okay. Apologize for the traffic. You learn to separate all of your ideas, and we start removing obstacles. You realize that when you think in terms of light energy and plasma, okay, and you start problem solving only utilizing light energy, okay, which is what we'll be using here, you don't have to worry about those numbers and the weights and the whatever. You just need to worry about a polarity, like a battery. If you can put a battery inside of your remote control the correct way, you can do this stuff. It's not that hard. You just have to think of it that way, is that you're building a little magnet or a little magnetic battery every time you make an infinity device. Okay? And you're only making 1/2 of the device. So whatever you put inside of this, it's only one. You have to take two. It takes two to tango, and everything with light. And I will discuss on a different day, not today, the 4 different tables of elements. Okay, and I will get those out to the public. I have several proposed versions and things like that. But for now, we're going to have fun. And my crown chakra is just on fire right now. And I felt inspired to share that message with you. And I don't even know half of what was just said. I have to go back and watch the videos myself. So we're going to work with this. All right. I'm going to start by drilling a couple of holes. And hopefully we don't hurt ourselves. All right. Just remember, guys, you gotta share this stuff in order for it to get out into the world. I apologize if this gets too loud. All right, we're going to put 2 holes in here, one for the expansion and one for the, you have intake and the output, intake, outtake, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Right. And where is So I know I'm not going to be able to get all this liquid out of here, all right, much as I want to try. But we're going to get out as much as we can. I just put it on a paper towel to help absorb it. All right. Pretty empty now. Yeah, I've got to find something that's going to fit in the end of that. Traffic is very bad today. It's been bad all week. Kind of drives me nuts. Oh, let's see here. Okay. Perfect. So I'm going to remove this glitter. I have some fresh water that I want to rinse this out with. And you see how easy it was to put that liquid back in there? Had I not put 2 holes in there, it would have tried to explode out the single hole there. So you got to be able to create balance. Clean this thing out. Any suggestions on which GANs I should put on the outside here? And why? Anyone? All right. Well, I think that I should use some of this lead GANs that I made.
What are you going to put inside?
I'm going to make an infinity loop.
Okay.
You know, that's probably 8 that I can fit inside of here, like that. And then I'm going to, you know, it's going to have coconut oil on it. And then I'm going to put more GANs surrounding the infinity loop that's inside of here. So it's going to have lead GANs on the outside, okay? And I think I'm going to put CO2 on the inside around the infinity device that I made. So that's what I think. I'm going to mix this up, and I want it to be completely mixed up, and I know that I'm going to be adding quite a bit. If you can tell, the color here is kind of almost a CH3 that's kind of a little bit darker brown. Okay, instead of a red, it's kind of a brown, and that's what the lead GANs turned into after we let it sit. Okay, and it started to gain strength. It started to ripen like a fine wine. So we have this wonderful color here. This is a bit of fresh water.
What are the beneficial properties of the lead GANs?
We're just trying to create a potential difference. Okay? And the lead GANs is the outer barrier. Okay? Crap. I'm glad you said the outer back, because I have to can't put the lead GANs in there yet. It's creating the outer barrier and the field strength, okay? When you put it on the outside. I'm actually creating the layers by using the GANs, okay? And lead is, what, 82 or 81 or something like that on the periodic table of elements, okay? Which means, in light terms, that it's 81, or however, whatever the atomic number is, plus 1, okay, is the total number of field interactions that I'm putting on the outside, okay? The first thing I've got to do is I've got to nano coat the inside. And all I'm going to do is take some of this little ash water, activated charcoal. Okay. And I'm going to squirt it on the inside of this plastic container.
Dora asked about nano coating first.
Thank you. That's what we're doing. I forgot about it. I think I picked it up when she mentioned it or started to type it. I can't see the screen. So, all right. So all I've done was inject it on the inside. Just going to shake it around. Okay. Don't have to do much else with it. It's done. Okay. Once that stuff touches the plastic, what we see as smooth is actually really deep grooves and valleys. So we don't have to. We don't have to worry about whether or not it nano-coated. You just have to have faith that when you're using this stuff, that it's filling in the gaps, it's doing exactly what you think it's doing. Okay, you can only do so much with your ideas. Okay, with the no tools to be able to prove them. Okay, and that's what we're running into. Is that, you know, a lot of the things that I teach can't or have not been able to be proven yet because the suppression of technology, the suppression of knowledge. But it'll come out soon. I'm extracting the extra liquid off the top up here. And from here, clean out the end with a paper towel, dry it out. And I'll check my The next step is to seal these holes. So what you're seeing here is the outer layering, okay, of liquid GANs that's been washed, so it's got a positive energy field, okay, and we nano coated it first. So on the very inside layer of plastic, on the inside of this tube here, okay, there is a thin layer of negative. Okay, even if it's just one atom thick, it's still one layer of negative. And then you have the polarity of the actual plastic that negative layer is attracted to. Okay, so it's positive, negative, and then positive. And we're going to put another positive, which is the CO2 that's washed, in the center. Okay, and then we'll put a nano-coated device like this, okay, similar to this, or one that we make that'll fit, and we'll put it inside of there, which makes the negative for the very center. Okay, so you have two positives wrapped around the negative, and then another negative before the positive outer layer of plastic. All right, so what we're trying to do is create the pressure needed. And if there's 80-something layers of energy field holding this one in, that means that there needs to be something slightly less as the nano-coated one in the center. Okay? If you exceed from the center, okay, the strength that this outer field is able to contain, okay, let's say, you know, the outer field is 80, for instance, and the inner device that you made comes up to make, you know, combined with the GANs and all that, it comes up to make 102, okay? If that's the case, then your energy, your inner field, is not going to be able to be contained by the outer field because it's stronger than the outer field is. So it's going to naturally push through, okay? And so
you have to be able to have a stronger outer field, and that's why I chose the lead GaNs. Okay, and then I'll put the CO2 in the center. All right, a thicker CO2 that I just made in my CO2 kits. Okay, and I will put that in the center so that we can have a potential difference between the CO2, okay, which if we go by it using zinc and creating zinc oxide, then it's actually the strength of zinc, a neutrino, the strength of zinc, okay, which is like 21 or 23 or something like that, okay. So you have that on the inside. This creates the 0-point energy, okay, the actual neutrinos. So you've got this in the center, 0. Then from that first layer of the CO2, okay, that would be 23 layers, let's say, 24, whatever the atomic number is. And then you've got the 80 that are here. So there's about 112 or so different energy fields. And that's not correct math. There's just numbers that I'm throwing out here. Okay, I haven't written it down yet. But that's what we're working with here. All right. And that's why I decided to try and use this device. Okay. Now, the other thing is that it's shaped like a pill. All right. Which means that it can slide into other objects, you know, like different tubes and things like that. Okay. So you can create even more layering. All right. I don't want to tip that too much. Okay. I have something very specific that I'm supposed to be utilizing with this because of its pill shape. And when you do that, you know, and you get, like I said, it takes two to tango. If you take this and you stack it on top of something else, okay, you see, now you've created a battery, and it's just a plasmatic battery. It doesn't have to have a connection unless you want it to. Okay, so that's what we're working with here. All right, looks like the hot glue is hot. I'm just going to fill in this whole thing here to keep this from leaking out. If you really wanted to, you could even put a nice fat drop or mix. I think that's what I'm going to do with this one. Since hot glue is molecularly restructuring because it's melting and it's hot, then why not put some dried beans in there, or you know, something of that sort. You know, think about things as you're doing them, and don't be afraid to experiment, because this is something we do as we move along. Okay. I'm just squishing up. This is a bunch of dried beans that I'd left to sit for a long time, and they dried up. So I've got salts in here. I've got all sorts of mixtures of things. Even some mixtures of hot glue. But this is giving me a powdered version. Okay. You can see that. It's giving me a powdered version of the GaNs, the very materials that I'm putting in there. Okay. I'm just adding strength to it. And I will again add some more hot glue to this. Maybe. I know you're hot enough. You just blocked There we go. As you can see, it's posing to be a little bit more difficult. All right. I will be back shortly. I do believe that my internet guy here is here. We'll watch this dry for a minute. All right. So now what we've done, okay, I'm just going to put this cap on it, let it dry. Now I've completed that. You can let it sit and move around, and it will help seal on the inside. So now you've got dried GANs in the base of this. Okay, this little mixture. Saw how much I didn't use. Okay, it's a little bit of everything in here. Everything that dried, I mixed all together and I crumbled it. This is what I use to make my GANs pastes and things like that. Okay, and we're going to utilize it today. Now, I managed to pick up some more glue because I know I've been going through a shit ton of glue. So, then with the lead GANs, we're going to move on to some CO2, if I can find the container to wash it in. We're going to utilize it. Although you guys won't be able to see it because this is a double log cup and it's got plastic inside of it, but I need to wash these GANs. And I just need the GANs. So I'm going to extract it utilizing this little stuff. Now, all of the stuff on the very bottom is what you're really just trying to kind of vacuum up with your syringes. All right. You know you're not going to get all of it. You're not going to just get only the CO2. So, you know, don't be so hard on yourself. You're just trying to extract it. Okay.
Couldn't you use the water of the GANs also?
Yes, but this right here is salt water. Okay.
Oh.
Because this is the water that I created these neutrinos in, or captured them. And so I've got to rinse it. And once I rinse it and get all the salt out of it and away from it, then I can use the GANs of water itself. Okay, because remember, we're changing the conditions by washing the salt away. Okay. And I always look at my salt water to freshwater ratio when I'm mixing, you know, because there's some out there that say, oh, you got to wash it 5 or 6 times or whatever. You know, it depending on how much fresh water you put. Okay, I've got maybe this much salt water in here, okay, compared to the bottom. And I'm going to add my fresh water all the way to the top, okay. I'm still going to have to extract this one because this cup is fairly small. But in doing so, I'm mixing and diluting all of that salt water, okay? And I'll let this sit. I filled it all the way up to here, okay? I've diluted enough salt out of this just by mixing it this way that I can take the water that I'm going to extract from the top of this, okay, after this all settles, and I can put that directly on my plants, okay? There's not enough salt there to kill, okay, but it is something that you have to be cautious in because you might not have enough to rinse it out, okay? So we're gonna let this settle. I don't know if you can see it, but it's pretty thick. That's all GANs that's in there, and you know, if you can see through the container, you'll be able to see that it has made giant flakes inside of here, okay, and they're all condensing towards the top and floating on top. Okay, that's the removal of the salt. Okay. And just stirring it up will help move all those little particles around, okay, and mix them in with the salt and fresh water. Okay, you just want to create the friction between the water and your neutrinos, okay? And when you do so, it removes that salt. Let's see if we can do this. You can see it start to separate, and in doing so, it's separating the salt from everything else. The salt will float to the top because it's less dense than water, and you just extract all the clear liquid off the top after this all settles down. Okay? And then you realize, you know, it also could be the coconut oil has trapped the GANs, so it might very well be on top. Okay? So that's also something to consider. I have not, I'm a little disappointed this thing isn't clear. I have not experienced this yet where it's floating like this. So I think that's pretty interesting. Something to explore right now. Just looking for a container, guys. This will work perfect. Just a clear little spray bottle. All right, I'm adding more liquid to my spray bottle and I can't see it. All right, so I'm taking a new water bottle here. with a clear side on it. Okay. And this is what you call washing your neutrinos or your GANs. Okay, you're just adding fresh water to it. Let's see here. There we go. You can see it all floating to the surface now. I do believe that is because of the coconut oil has trapped the GANs inside of there since we put it on the plates. Okay, this is my first time experiencing it, and it's moving the same way that coconut oil does with water. So that's what's giving me the interpretation here. But you can see I just added, there's probably this much salt water in the bottom. Let's see here if you can see that. Okay. About an inch worth on this water bottle here. Okay. And I added all of this fresh water. Okay. And as you can see, the fresh water is releasing and appears to be attracting more of the CO2. Okay. And it's all floating and rising to the top, and it's acting like a tiny foam or a bubbles. You know, I think we've just created a new product, you know, or at least brought to light a new product, because I'm pretty sure that we can paste that on there, and that's CO2 coconut oil. So just, I'm pretty sure that it's not salted, but it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's quite interesting here. Let's see what it looks like for the laser.
Why did you have the coconut oil in with the GANs?
It was on my plate, or on the copper plate when I put it in there.
Okay.
It protected the copper plates and allowed the GANs to form. But it's the first time that I used the spray. So I'm getting a different reaction. You guys are watching it live, so it's pretty cool. But yeah, it moves. It's now floating to the top. I don't appear to see any that's floating at the bottom. It's all rising to the surface. So let us see. I want to make sure this gets good shape. Good washed. Yeah. Add the extra air in there. And help break it up, wash even more salt off of it. If it is in fact coconut oil, or maybe it's just the true nature of the neutrinos, you know, with the coconut oil. So we won't know until we can get all the equipment. But I can see a lot of air bubbles rising up towards the surface here.
Well, the coconut oil is naturally going to float to the top of the water.
Yeah.
So is your GANs also attached to that floating to the top of the water?
That's what I think. I think it's bonded with the GANs, because all of the GANs inside of here, I don't know how much you can see moving around, but all of it is moving in a clockwise spiral from the bottom to the top. So it's moving in this direction as it's coming up. Okay. Now, it's floating like coconut oil. Okay, like little coconut oil bubbles. And to me, that is just, it's fantastic. Normally, all of our GANs will sink to the bottom. So, you know, created a different condition. But I am going to be using this in the center. And I guess I could extract, after this settles a little bit more, okay, let this set a little bit more, and I'll extract the stuff off the top. See, now some of it's starting to fall, and that's a good thing. Alright, yeah, it created its equal imbalance, and all of it's starting to settle back down to the bottom. So it's releasing its salt at the top, and it's sinking back down to the bottom right now currently. So when it does, it finishes. If there's anything left on top, I'll pour it off into another container so I can check out some experiments with that. So, but that's how you wash. All right, I'm going to put a lid on this and let it sit, not disturb it. When this is all settled down here, you'll notice that you can turn your bottle, okay? And the stuff on the bottom is most of the time not disturbed too much. So you can pour the top of the water off, all right, until it reaches the bottom. When this air bubble reaches the back down here, it disturbs it. But then you can just pour off the top of that, the clear stuff, okay? Save it, pour it on your plants, do whatever, because right now it's 100% pure plant food, okay? Rinse your hands with it if you want, okay? I think I took all the energy out of that thing in doing this, but this is how you wash it. And then if you want to rinse it, you know, a couple more times, you can, you know, clear off that clear water that's on the top. That's all GANS water, by the way, okay? You can clear off that top water there and then add more fresh water. And it'll do the same thing over and over again, and you'll just keep rinsing it until you want it. I do the same thing with all of my GANs that's back here, okay? I utilize them, okay? I'll put them in these jars. I'll let it settle. Whenever I use them, okay, I always refill them with fresh water again, okay? Because then I can just keep reusing and reutilizing the water over and over again. It's just like utilizing the GANs. So I use quart jars for mine.
Do you think there's a difference of covering it and not covering it? Whenever I make GANs, I just I filled the container with water, and then I would suck the water off the top until I got down to the GANs and rinsed again. But I never covered it.
Yeah, you don't have to. If you want to produce amino acids, okay, leave it uncovered and put a fan on top of it, okay, blowing on the surface of the water. The airflow is what actually creates the oily substance, as we know as amino acids. If you don't want amino acids on the surface, then put a cover over the top, okay? The neutrinos or the GANs are not going to be stopped by the lid, okay? They are a light energy, and they go right through the plastic or the container that you're doing, and are attracted only to the magnet you've created. So, you know, don't be shy.
Jim is asking, when you say fresh water, is that distilled or rainwater can be used, or tap water?
Fresh water
I use
means
distilled
anything
water.
that is not salty. Okay? If that means you only got river water, that's fresh water. Okay, whether it's contaminated or not, it's still considered fresh water. Okay, as long as it's not salty. That is the difference here. Okay, you have to, when you use salt water, you create a negative polarity around the neutrinos. Okay, when you use fresh water, you're creating a positive polarity around the neutrino, which is already a positive polarity. So it's allowed to express the energy out. Okay. When it's surrounded by salt water, it will absorb anything that you put into it. That's why the right after the initial, when you make sea GANs and you put your caustic in there, okay, and all that stuff settles to the bottom like this is doing here, okay, that top water that's still brackish, okay, that's still salt water and a little bit of caustic mixed in, you can put that in your health pads, okay, and it will pull energy out of the body. It'll help extract energy or bad energies from the body. That's why I utilize that salt water. It's gravitational, so it's going to pull that energy outwards, okay, or towards it. And that's why we use salt water and salt GANs or neutrinos in some applications where you want to extract something. When you mix that little bit of salt water in there, you're creating a different energy field, okay? The health pads that I just posted, they're all washed, okay? They're all free of salt. So they're only giving out energy. And then I put the infinity loop that I made in the last video, okay, or last couple videos, I put that on one side and I put another card on the other, okay? Still in the plastic bags, each one had its own layer, you know, and it was just literally, you know, 12 inches by 12 inches. But it's giving the energy, it's giving the energy of CH3 and copper oxide and CO2. And the nano-coated infinity loop in the pad, this is like the battery, the paper was the capacitor, okay? And then the infinity loop on the other side was the initiator or the absorber or the antenna, as we call it, to give the energy outward. Now, had I used salt water in it, it would have been able to absorb all of those nutrients that we put into the caustic. Okay, so we would have extracted those nutrients. Okay, and you'll learn with time. Okay, you'll learn with time that this is it's an alchemical process. Okay, so you know, let's say somebody's on you know, methamphetamines or heroin or something like that that is extremely addictive. Once you learn the alchemical process of reversing, okay, attracting what is exactly in, you know, let's say you took crystal meth, okay, some of the crystals and you broke it down, it's already a base, okay? It's the same thing as the potassium hydroxide or the sodium hydroxide. It's the same exact thing, okay? It's on that spectrum of the pH, okay? So it's not going to interact with your caustic sodas, all right, or the potassium hydroxide. You're not going to be able to break it down. And that's where you would use vinegar, okay? The opposite. You would have to break it down. And now you're going to bring it back down into its GAN's natural state, okay? And, you know, when it's crystal, it's in matter form. Not really matter, but it's in crystal form. We want to extract that information, okay? Once you extract the information and you bring it back down with vinegar from a base, okay, you bring the pH back down, you're able to make the nanomaterials of methamphetamines now, okay? Which means that you're going to attract everything that is in methamphetamines to your infinity device, okay, to your wire, okay? If you make a wire like this, okay, where there's only a loop on one side, it's not in true infinity, okay? But you can give somebody a health pin like this with your, you know, your now meth
caustic solution that's been sprayed on here, and it will detox their bodies. Okay, it will absorb all of those things that are in the mess. Okay, absorb directly into this wire. All right, so they will stop with the side effects, the withdrawals. Even if they were to take it, okay, and continue to try and smoke the meth, it won't have any effect on them because this will take all of those specific energies directly from it. So I see these as a way to stop addiction of all sorts. You just need to learn the alchemical process of understanding that any kind of a dried form, of powder or anything like that is matter state. Okay. Most of the drugs that are out there, the hard drugs, okay, like heroin and meth and DMT, and a lot of those, they're derived from a base, okay, rather than an acid. Some of them use acids to break them down and whatnot. It's all based on the chemical composition of the plant, okay? So when you learn this process, you can take these little devices like this and give them away to people, that have a meth addiction, and all they have to do is carry it on their person, and it'll absorb all of that stuff from them. So you're helping people in more ways than one. The same goes true for attracting it, okay, and whatever. The opposite is true. You can make a device that will be made out of your methamphetamine caustic, if that's what you wanted to do, and it would express out the energy of the methamphetamines, okay? And you can walk into the energy field and feel high or feel drunk or feel it without actually consuming it, and then when you leave, okay, your body has to, you're gonna go through and filter through all that energy, okay? So you're still gonna get high for a while, but that's the stuff that you realize that you don't need, and just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. But for people that are helping and need help with addiction, okay, right now, to fight this monster that we call our government, okay, and these big corporations, this will work, okay, and we can make a cure for anything. We just need to know what it's made out of. It's a cure for anything. It's infinity. This is life, guys. I don't know anything different. So, anyways, all right, we're still settling here. I'm going to utilize some of this other CO2 because I'm being impatient. Yes, Jim. It becomes unusable and it becomes converted to a plasmatic energy. Okay? It's not something that to be worried about. It's a transmuter. That's what these neutrinos do, is they transmute energies. That's why we can put the CO2, this stuff right here, if we were to go make a whole bunch of sea gans and spread it all over the ocean near Fukushima, it would absorb radiation. Okay? And it'll eventually turn black, and it will be absorbing all of this energy, but it's converting it. What comes back out is like a flashlight beam, a 360-degree flashlight beam, and your body and every living entity on the our planet and the universe will only take what it needs from that energy field. Okay, it's not being forced upon us. If our bodies don't require it, then they don't bother us. Okay, does that make sense? Man, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. My fingers are too big. Oh, I really hate syringes. When one side fills up, the other side ceases to work. So learn from my mistakes. Extract your liquids. I'm just going to take this water and add it to my charcoal water mixture. Because I know it's all usable. And I really need the GANs that's on the bottom without stirring it all up. All right. I recommend using shorter jars sometimes for extracting the GANs. I don't usually want to use the GANs that's in the bottom of these jars because I've just used the water. But because I'm making this device, I want to be sure that I've got it. And I think I'm just going to use this one.
Jim has some questions here.
What you got? Can you read them for me, please?
Sure, it says, does the nano-coated wire fill up with what is drawn out and become unusable?
It doesn't necessarily become unusable, like I said, but it becomes harmless to humans. That's the biggest difference here.
And then how would saltwater draw bottle be attached to the pin with a tube to contain the energy of what is not wanted in the body?
You have to say that one again.
It says, how would saltwater draw bottle be attached to pin with a tube to contain the energy of what is not wanted in the body?
Well, because it's not about containing the energy, it's about transmuting the energy. Okay? We don't want to contain the energy. We want to change it to something that is a lot more friendly to the environment and to our bodies. Okay? In this case, our bodies are the environment. So when you're absorbing stuff, okay, like in this wire, for instance, okay, I'm going to spray this with the coconut oil before I forget. Okay. And this is to protect the nano coating. Okay, it's already got GANs, dried GANs on it. Okay, copper oxide, it's kind of green. Alright. I'm just going to rub off the little excess coconut oil. Turn on the hot glue. Now, I've filled that up. And submerge it inside of that. Okay. Set this off to the side for a minute and let my hot glue gun heat up. While we're doing that, answer these games. All right, you're not transferring the energy to a container of salt water. The salt water creates a gravitational energy field around the GANs. Okay, the GANs itself is what's pulling the energy towards it. Okay, and the salt water just kind of keeps it stabilized. All right,
and it holds it, and we trap it. That's why we use the salt water. When we wash the salt water and we wash the salt out of the water, it changes the conditions around the GANs. Okay, each individual one, and it changes from a gravitational or an attracting force to a magnetical or a repelling force. All right, one that pushes outward. And that's the big difference of what we're utilizing and doing here, is you're just changing the subtle energies. Okay, you're creating the layering that's required to make these things work the way that they're designed to work. So just keep in mind that it's all about the layering, and you need to make sure that you're doing a positive and negative to increase power. If you want to understand that a little bit more, you just by using water, you can use salt water as your negative and fresh water as your positive. Okay, fresh water, I don't necessarily recommend distilled water unless you're doing very specific experiments, okay, that require very specific results, and you have all the labs to write it up and do all that kind of stuff. That's for those kinds of tests. But in creating everything else with what we've got, okay, you want to create the layering, you can just use salt water and fresh water with the, you know, what do you want in the center? Do you want fresh water? Do you want a positive charge in the center? Put fresh water there. Okay. If you want a negative charge in the center, okay, put salt water there. And then you can put your layers of bowls, you know, around it. Okay. That's just what we need there. You're just going from left, you know, and to right. And you're making the energy inside of that water create those vortexes for you. All right. And that's what you're utilizing, is that vortex energy. Obviously, when you use neutrinos and GANs, it's going to happen a lot faster. You're creating, you know, how fast do you want that speed to be? You know, you could say that I wanted the lead GANs in here to be, you know, we'll say it was 81 miles per hour. All right. Just had an idea. Now, just creating the energy with the neutrinos and the GANs allows us to decide how fast we want the wheels to spin. You know, how fast do we want the gears to change? All right, and that's why I used lead, because I wanted a bigger gear. All right, you have to think of it like there's 81. You know, I don't know what the periodic table number is. The atomic number is for lead at the moment, but it's right there in the 80s. And you know, I see it as this is. Thank you. It's 83. There's 83 bubbles stuffed inside of a bigger bubble, which makes it 84. All right, and that's the way these neutrinos work. When you're using CO2, all right, with zinc and nano-coated copper, you're getting, you know, the difference between the nano-coated copper, all right, which would be the negative integer of whatever the atomic number is. I think it's like 21 or 20 or something like that. Okay. 82. I'm sorry. But that's what we're working with here, is like you're trying to figure out how many bubbles you can stuff within a bubble. And with lead being the outside casing, okay, that we put in here, and it's 82, okay, that would mean that there would be 82 field interactions encompassing the 21 or 23 or whatever for the CO2 that we've put in, okay? With the ozone, which is that greenish blue nano coating that you saw attracted to the surface of that wire, all right? And then you have the nano coating. So I've basically got 3 layers of positive energy, all right, before it gets to the nano coating, which is negative polarity. And it's all encompassed inside of this, okay? Well, once I seal this up, okay, and the glue gets hot enough that I can fill in this little gap and make sure that it doesn't ever leak, okay, this will be sealed up completely. And I'll be able to wear this around my chest or put it in the car or whatever, and I've got all of this energy that'll be fed into my body, okay? I won't be absorbing lead, okay? But everything from lead 82 all the way down to 1, which is hydrogen, is all of the energy that is being filtered because of this outer layer, okay? So it's including, sorry guys, we got an ambulance going by, or police officer. But so when you've got 82 or 83 layers, okay, 82 layers running around in here, okay, you've got everything from 82, 81, 80, 79, 78, 76, all the way down the periodic table of elements. Every bit of that is available here, okay? And so you can tap into those energies and say, I need to utilize all of those, okay? It just so happens that lead, I think, is right at the end of the elements that transmute, okay? The yellow ones on my in my brain, okay? But that's what they're working on. But we're gonna work on it all together. This thing is hot enough now. Yeah. And want to make sure and get along the edges because it's going to bond well, because this glue is so hot it will even itself out. Yeah. And I am also going to put more of this dried gans here. On the surface. Pat it into the glue. I can feel the heat. Okay. Just clean off the edges. Use gloves if you want to. It's okay. So now that's all I've gotten. Just filled it in. Got a little bit of an air bubble in there. You can see the gans. Okay. Now all I'm going to do is close it. Let it cool down. And now I've got myself my own little charm. Okay. I'm going to let that finish cooling before I start trying to take any measurements on it. Then we can end this program.
Jim has a question on how to wrap the infinity loop in the shape of a health pen.
Yeah, you can look up the quad core. Okay, I'll make another one. I can do one here after this this setup. I've got my wire here now. But I highly suggest that you utilize the quad core health pen design. Okay. This is using a pretty thick wire here, but you don't have to use a thick one. All right. It's just this one is actually 6. All right. So this is an Infinity 6 health pen. meaning that there are 6 field interactions inside of this double coil, and that's all collected inside of here energetically, and it's transferred through the tips. Okay, and you got one that's bigger than the other. Okay, longer than the other. I'll show you how to make a health pin with the Infinity Quad Core on the next meeting here. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. All right, ladies.